we found out that Taylor Swift turned down Meghan Markle for the Archetypes podcast. I believe Vanity Fair told us that Beyoncé turned down Meghan Markle.
They say Hollywood is a town that never forgets. But when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped onto the red carpet at the 2025 American Music Awards, it wasn't adoration or applause that greeted them. It was silence. The kind of silence that echoes louder than boos. A statement made not with words, but with absence of flashbulbs, of headlines, of relevance. What was once a royal fairy tale has morphed into a Hollywood tragedy. The Sussexes, once the darlings of global media, now find themselves at the icy edge of an industry that thrives on reinvention, but demands authenticity. And in a stunning twist, the very institutions that once lined up to work with them are now quietly stepping back. At the AMAs, their red carpet walk, once a symbol of prestige, became a 3-minute exercise in damage control. No interviews, no cameras scrambling to catch a glimpse, just a tense shuffle toward the venue while the crowd looked the other way. Meghan's usually calculated smile faltered. Her eyes darted past the cameras, not seeking attention, but an escape. Harry wore the hollow stare of a man who knew he didn't belong. Or worse, that everyone else knew. This wasn't just awkward. It was orchestrated rejection. Major entertainment outlets like Access Hollywood, E!, and even Vogue offered no coverage, no pre-event buzz, no post-event fashion breakdowns. Meghan's team had allegedly pushed for a Vogue cover in the lead-up to the awards, complete with a laundry list of demands. But the pitch ended in tears and silence. The magazine passed, just like everyone else. Then came the host's monologue. A moment that should have been forgettable banter turned into a cultural gut punch. Comedian Jared Carmichael stared into the camera and said it with a smirk. Give it up for America's royal Kardashians, except with fewer ratings and even less authenticity. The room exploded with laughter. But for Meghan and Harry, it was the sound of their last Hollywood lifeline snapping. And that was just the beginning. Taylor Swift, the queen of public diplomacy, avoided them entirely. Beyoncé had reportedly turned down Meghan's podcast. Invite months ago, Dolly Parton's team outright rejected a collaboration to protect her brand. These weren't passive snubs. They were conscious decisions by cultural giants to keep their names far from the Meghan Markle PR machine. The Sussexes had always counted on their ability to control the narrative, to pivot from scandal to sympathy, from backlash to brand. But that pivot is failing. Desperately trying to reclaim control, Meghan reportedly attempted a post-awards charity appearance. The goal? A classic image repair tactic. Surround yourself with cause-driven imagery, appear generous, selfless, and above the drama. Only this time, the nonprofit involved publicly denied any association. No collaboration, no event, no photo op. It was a calculated move by an organization that saw more risk than reward in being linked to Meghan's current media storm. Her playbook, once effective, is now backfiring with precision. Online, the backlash was immediate and relentless. The hashtag #OnSpareNoOne, a brutal nod to Harry's memoir Spare, began trending. Memes flooded social media, side-by-side shots of Meghan's tight-lipped red carpet smile next to wax figures, looped videos of Harry's 1,000-yard stare, captioned with lines like, "When you realize Spotify was your peak." The internet, as always, didn't just observe the fall. It turned it into entertainment. And inside the venue, things only got worse. Industry insiders noticed the lack of interaction. No cozy mingling with celebrities, no backstage photos with producers or musicians, no buzzing crowd of PR handlers pushing for coverage. It was as though the couple had been ghosted by an entire room. Sources close to the event said Harry was visibly tense. At one point, he reportedly muttered, "We shouldn't have come." A quiet admission that cut deeper than any tabloid headline. They left early, not just out of discomfort, but necessity. The early exit wasn't planned PR management. It was an escape, and it didn't go unnoticed. Hollywood, once eager to welcome Meghan and Harry as disruptors, now sees them as liabilities. Their deals with major players like Netflix and Spotify, which once symbolized a new era of royal storytelling, are unraveling. The Netflix deal, once touted as a multi-million-dollar game-changer, now hangs by a thread. Projects are stalled, budgets have been slashed, and the execs who once championed the Sussexes are going dark. Spotify already cut ties. One disappointing season of Archetypes was enough. No renewal, no drama. just a quiet goodbye. Even the industry's most powerful agency, CAA, has started distancing itself. No announcements, no public fallout, just a subtle but decisive pause on Meghan and Harry's future. And here lies the real story. The collapse isn't loud, it's quiet. That's how power in Hollywood moves. In the silence between meetings that never get scheduled, calls that never come back, and offers that stop arriving altogether. Meghan's favorability. Ratings are plummeting, hitting 20%, second only to Prince Andrew in terms of public unpopularity. Once hailed as a modern princess with a message, she's now being openly mocked in media circles as the face of failed reinvention. And the criticism isn't just coming from tabloids or online trolls. Former fans, lifestyle bloggers, and even liberal-leaning media outlets that once championed her have turned. The consensus? It all feels fake now. The stories don't connect. The branding is erratic. Is Meghan a wellness influencer, a royal reformer, a lifestyle entrepreneur, a podcast host, a children's author? In the absence of a clear identity, even her most polished ventures feel hollow. The American Riviera Orchard brand, launched to much fanfare, has produced little more than custom jam jars and vague promises. 5 years after stepping back from royal duties, there's no meaningful business success, just announcements, delays, and headlines without substance. What's happening to Meghan and Harry isn't just a PR crisis, it's a collapse of narrative. A slow, brutal erosion of public trust that no longer responds to curated photo ops or podcast tiers. Meghan once embodied a fairy tale arc. An outsider who conquered royalty, challenged convention, and stood for reinvention. But somewhere along the way, the public stopped believing the story, because storytelling requires more than polished speeches. It requires consistency, results, proof. And increasingly, Meghan's brand lacks all three. At one point, she was lauded for her vulnerability, for speaking about mental health and motherhood. But now, even these moments are met with skepticism. Her recent interview on a podcast with Jamie Kern-Lima, where she broke down in tears discussing motherhood and love languages, landed with a dull thud. It didn't stir empathy, it stirred exhaustion. For many, it felt rehearsed. Another emotional beat in a script that's starting to repeat itself. The public isn't heartless, but they are perceptive. They can tell when something feels manufactured. And in a media age where authenticity is currency, Meghan is bankrupt. It's a tough pill to swallow for someone who built her post-royal life on the idea of reinvention. But even reinvention requires foundation. And right now, her brand appears to be made of smoke. Ever-shifting, hard to define, and impossible to follow. One day she's launching a jam line. The next she's doing a docuseries. Then a podcast. Then a children's book. None of these ventures stick. Not because the concepts are flawed, but because they lack continuity. There's no singular message, no deeper mission, just movement for the sake of visibility. And the public has caught on. Even within the Hollywood machine, which thrives on reinvention and second chances, patience is wearing thin. Executives are privately calling the Sussex brand toxic, not for scandal, but for saturation. There's nothing left to discover, no new angle, just repetition, and behind it, diminishing returns. And now, the money is following the attention. Out the door. Fast Company, once eager to celebrate Meghan's brand journey, is now questioning her credibility. And this isn't an isolated moment. It's a ripple effect spreading through the industry. Boardrooms are whispering. Executives are pulling back. Media allies are growing cold. In Hollywood, when visibility turns into vulnerability, the fall is fast. And often final. At the heart of it all is a brutal irony. Meghan and Harry left the royal family to escape the spotlight. But in chasing their own fame, they've built an empire dependent on that same attention. And now that attention is turning on them, and they have nowhere to go. Even their inner circle seems to be tightening. Reports suggest Harry has grown increasingly disengaged from their public life. At the AMAs, his body language was unmistakable. Tense, detached, done. Insiders say he barely spoke throughout the night. At one point, he muttered, "We shouldn't have come." And he might have been right, because the AMAs weren't just another awkward event. They were a turning point, a moment of collective decision from Hollywood. Not to mock or attack, but to ignore. And in show business, there's Nothing deadlier than silence. Their exit from the venue wasn't dramatic. It wasn't chaotic. It was quiet. A backdoor slip-out that avoided fans, cameras, and questions. It wasn't an exit. It was an escape. And it marked a symbolic end. The Sussexes didn't just leave the building, they left the conversation. Since then, every attempt at re-entry has fallen flat. Meghan's brand launches have failed to catch fire. Their media appearances feel disconnected from any larger vision. Even the sympathy that once fueled their narrative is gone. In its place, shrugs, eye rolls, silence, and the online world, as merciless as ever, is having a field day. The memes have turned savage. The hashtags even more so. Spare No One was just the beginning. Influencers, bloggers, and even once supportive media voices are openly mocking their decline. This isn't royal drama anymore, it's public farce. And the worst part? It's all happening in real time. Because at the end of the day, Hollywood doesn't deal in grace, it deals in relevance. And when you lose that, you don't fade quietly, you get erased. The fall of Meghan and Harry isn't just about bad press or a few failed projects. It's about the collapse of a brand that never fully knew what it was. Royalty without a throne, celebrities without a fan base, entrepreneurs without a product, activists without a cause. That's the true tragedy. Once they were positioned to lead a new era of public engagement, a fusion of monarchy and modern media. But instead of building something real, they chased optics. Instead of defining their voice, they amplified their volume. And in doing so, they alienated the very audience they were trying to inspire. Now, the doors are closing, not all at once, but one by one. First Spotify, then the Vogue snub, then Netflix's slow fade, and now the AMAs, a silent spectacle. That showed the world exactly where Meghan and Harry stand. They walked the red carpet into a room that no longer cared. No flashes, no cheers, just 1,000 people pretending not to see them. That kind of rejection doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a collective realization that the story is over, that the main characters overstayed their welcome, that the plot twist never came, just repetition, fading charisma, and failed reinventions. And in the most ruthless town in the world, where tomorrow's fame depends on today's performance, Meghan and Harry are running out of encores. So now we're left with the question, was this the final curtain call for Meghan and Harry in Hollywood, or is there still one last twist in their story? If you've been following their rise and fall, we want to hear from you. Do you think this unraveling was inevitable? Or could it have gone differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you don't want to miss what happens next in this royal roller coaster, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell, because the next chapter might be even more dramatic,